It is 12:59. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. Slight update in the case of Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. As a Houston judge ruled on Monday, Watson can face questions under oath in some of the 22 civil cases filed against him by women alleging harassment and sexual assault. Watson's attorney said a decision on whether or not Watson will be criminally charged will likely come by April 1st. 17th-ranked Tennessee will look to bounce back from a loss at Arkansas that ended an 8-game win streak. Tonight, the Vols travel to Missouri, facing former coach Conzo Martin and the 10-17 Tigers. Tip-off is at 6 p.m. Hear the Vol Network broadcast right here on 104.5 The Zone. Vanderbilt at 14-12 will play host to 24th-ranked Alabama tonight at Memorial Gym. Tip-off is set for 8 p.m. on the SEC Network. Both schools also set for some midweek college baseball action today, weather permitting, as Tennessee hosting Tennessee Tech for a 3:30 first pitch. Vanderbilt also at home against North Alabama, first pitch at 4:30. And the Preds have lost 4 in a row since the All-Star break. They have slid to 4th in the Central Division, back on the road tonight at the Florida Panthers. It is a 6 p.m. puck drop. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
By the Zone, what's up? How's everybody doing out there? You swimming around? I will tell you this.
Swimming around.
I'm coming up from down south,
right.
and I get right into Nashville by 100 Oaks, where there's all those overpasses. And under one of those overpasses, there was a car on its side in a foot and a half of water.
What? In a foot? Oh.
There was, and even then, so the police had it all down to one lane. There was still probably 5 or 6 inches of water that I drove through very slowly, being observing of the
you didn't speed through?
police activity. There's no telling how fast the guy was going who hydroplaned his way onto his side.
Turn around, don't drown.
Don't be that guy. Well, I mean, you can't necessarily turn around on the interstate, but just don't drive too fast, you know?
It got packed up, backed up, and stacked up.
It got and it was jacked up, I promise you. It was a mess out there. So just be mindful of all that stuff. So we're going to get to this in the first hour of the show, Coach Mack, in hour number 2. Top free agent choice. So if you want to weigh in on that, I know that's been a big topic of conversation around here. I know there's been a kind of variations of that on the station, and there will be just until all this stuff gets settled somehow. But it's a great topic. It's a fun topic to talk about. We're each going to give you some stuff to think about today in the way of free agents, but you can weigh in on the Zone TV chat. You can call. Lines are wide open. Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. So it could be – maybe you're a Ben Jones guy. Maybe you're and we didn't even discuss this. We just said, let's all pick a free agent. It could be somebody in-house or it can be somebody out of house. So we've gotten some responses already via Twitter, and we were vague on purpose to see what kind of responses that we could get. And so some people are saying, well, I mean, I'm going to keep Landry in-house, but then I'm going to go get these guys and these guys. So we'll get to that, but we'd love to hear from you. If you This just came up. This was not on the script to talk about today, but Rick Stroud, who's been on the show before, is the Bucs beat writer. He's like the OG beat writer. Mm-hmm. This is where they are now. This got tweeted right as Lucas started doing the update. Imagine if you're a Bucs fan and your number one beat writer tweets this. This is where the Bucs quarterback stands right now. While everyone lives in that mystical place called Never Land, of course, there's a long way to go. Are you sitting down? Blaine Gabbert may be the quarterback the Bucs need.
May need?
Meaning that may be who they've got. Blaine
Well, yeah, he was the backup
Gabbert
last year, right?
Yep.
Oh, Blaine. I
Blaine
was always a fan
Gabbert.
of Blaine. Just Blaine still existed. I think they named him after me. I think when he was born, they had me in mind. So a lot of people tell me.
Blaine Gabbert. The responses to this.
And
good
we
one,
just
Rick.
looked
Yeah,
him
you
up,
really got
actually,
me.
accidentally. He was a first-round pick with Locker, Ponder, and who was the other?
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton was the number one.
We were talking
overall.
about because we were talking about this year's draft, and Blaine said, "You know this." It's people because, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. By the way, people are starting to weigh in on this. Sean Hatem on here is weighing in. A lot of tight end talk from him via free agency, our upcoming topic. But Blaine said, because we were talking about what do you do at 26? What if this guy's there? What if that guy's there? And there are some mock drafts One that had Matt Corral still there at 26. Another one today still had Malik Willis of Liberty there. And your take was, and 100% correct, it's fun to see that, but people always panic and take a quarterback early just because if you're drafted and you need a quarterback, you get desperate. So probably going to be gone. But
even though they're saying this is a weak quarterback draft, all of them are going to reach. That's what happens. That's why we brought up the Locker, Ponder, Blaine Gabbert. Those are all reaches. Those guys were all probably modestly second-round guys, but teams reached and said, we need a quarterback. We'll see if they can reach that potential. And so they'll always go higher than they should. So I don't think at 26, if they hold there, I was saying I don't think one of the top 3 quarterbacks will be there, which would be Corral, Willis, not in that order, and probably Pickett.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume, and maybe even another. I'm not really looking at the quarterback because I don't think the Titans are going to get a quarterback, so I'm not really scouting them really hard. But that's kind of how I view it.
I think the only way they draft a quarterback is if they trade back, because I agree with you. The top 3 guys will be gone. And then are you crazy enough about Desmond Ridder to pick him at 26? Are you crazy enough who's the guy from North Carolina, Sam Thurston Howell, is that him? I mean, if you're crazy enough about you can draft, no, I don't think you're going to draft any of those guys.
Yeah, I watched a lot of the Senior Bowl practices, and I did not like what I saw. I mean, he was okay, but I was expecting better. I didn't, some guys, and I'm talking about practice, not the actual game, too. Being that I played in it, the value comes into practices and not the actual game. Because they leave and then they just watch it on TV, but they want to see you do back-to-back work. Excuse me, especially at the quarterback position.
I think the other thing, too, is I remember one year from the Senior Bowl, one of the reporters said the first thing they had to do with every quarterback was show them, A, how to huddle, and B, how to take a snap. None of them had ever huddled. They didn't know how to call a huddle. That not one quarterback had ever called a huddle. Because they just didn't. They never huddled. They just stood out there and somebody held up a picture of a Cheeto and a Ford Mustang, and that was the play. And then they picked one.
And everybody knew what to do.
Everybody knew what to do.
So you're not actually calling the play.
That's how they did it.
Which in the NFL, the plays are long-winded. And especially for a quarterback, because you're actually disseminating what everybody does.
Yep.
Where, being a defensive back guy, I'm sitting there just waiting for my portion of what I need to listen to. Everything else is irrelevant. What the D-line needs to do, or the cornerbacks. Nope, I just need to know what I'm doing. And then I can go into, trying to be the best at doing my job on that given play. So much harder. It's unfortunate because that's where colleges have gone. And the NFL hasn't really embraced that part of it.
Yeah.
Maybe throwing the ball a lot more they've embraced, but not doing the no huddle so much unless you're trying to disrupt the defensive timing and get them unsettled a little bit, which the Titans like to do, which I like that part of it, but not where you're just no huddling the entire game.
Well, we've talked about this before, especially during pre- and post-game shows, sort of like maybe today is the day you uncork a little more no huddle, especially when Marcus was here. It came up a lot. Like run a little more no huddle.
Well, I think I was saying that only at times because it seems that the offense functioned better with him at the helm. And I still like it when Tannehill does it, especially if it's periodically during the game. I do not like it as a whole totality like college and you're just giving them signals and everybody's turned to the sideline.
Right.
I don't know if that'll ever happen. I'm sure it will at some point, but I don't think we're there yet. But the game is definitely changing. They're throwing it around the yard a lot more, but just with huddle. I like it periodic through a game, but I think you got to see Marcus have a lot more success, even Tannehill, because then they're calling their own plays, and they have a better feel. They're in game, and then now the coordinator is just giving you suggestions along the way instead of actual plays. And Marcus did look really good at that most of the time, and Tannehill does too. I think a lot of quarterbacks do because now they're in control.
As crazy as this sounds, Marcus Mariota is going to factor into the quarterback race somewhere as a free agent. Like this is the year. This is his last opportunity. If he's going to start it, I think in the NFL, he gets it. This is his last look at being a starter somewhere. Now, where? I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are talking about some. There's a whole social media thing about does he wind up in Green Bay? There's another one. Does he wind up in San Francisco? There's another about Mariota. Does he wind up here or there or somewhere else? It seems like he's on the verge of maybe getting his last opportunity to go somewhere to compete to start, where after that he's going to just be a backup forever. But it seems like this year he's going to get that chance somewhere. I'll be interested to see because there were at times, the one game a couple of years ago he got him for the Raiders. He played lights out. Then the first game of this past season of 2021, he played one play, had a long run, got hurt. Then he missed however many games after that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think he's going to get an opportunity to compete for the job, as a stopgap quarterback this year.
Yep.
And maybe he ends up winning the job and then gets to be the starting quarterback for that period of time. And then he can then hit the NFL over the head with a nice contract if he plays well. And I think his second go-around, I think he's going to do a little bit better. Depends on the coaching staff and, who works around his skill set. But I'd like to see him be more of an all-around quarterback instead of playing inside the hashes, instead of running the football a lot more. I think his durability is always going to be in question because of his frame.
Yep.
He's actually a twitchy, runner. I mean, he's an effective runner. But here with the Titans and even with the Raiders, he continued to have injury issues. Not as severe as he did with the Titans because he was every down, quarterback till the end. I just think that has to play in mind, and that at some point he has to show that he can beat everybody with their arm and he can run when he has to. I think he actually should be able to, at some point, play his game a la and better. I think he has better tools. We shall see. Like Tannehill. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They run Tannehill. Mm-hmm. He doesn't slide, really. I mean, at times he does, but he runs the football when needed. I think that's kind of the calculated way you want your quarterback to be mobile if you want him to stay healthy throughout an entire season. So I wish the best for Marcus, and I think he deserves that opportunity. We shall see how he does on the open market and who brings him in and lets him compete. I like your idea of San Francisco because if they lose out on one of these big-name quarterbacks that may want to get traded, and then you bring in, Marcus as a stopgap, let's use the 49ers, and they trade Jimmy G, and then they have him there with Trey Lance kind of pushing him, but at the same time, if he's not ready, we're not going to force it, and we're going to let him continue to develop, and we'll let Marcus take the helm, and then if he runs around and gets injured, then we got to put the Trey Lance guy in.
Sure.
I think so. To your point, yeah, this may be the last go-round. I never want to say that about Marcus. I saw something in him this past season when I saw him play. He looked really hungry. Mm-hmm. I hadn't seen him like that since he was, maybe his first 2 or 3 years with the Titans. He looked different. He was hungry. He was upset. He was playing the way I like to see him play. And it was always about the running, but also he was pinpoint accurate on his passing game. So I hadn't seen that in a while. So I think he's refreshed, re-energized, and he's finally healthy. I'm interested to see how well he does.
Man, me too, for sure. Let's get into this on the other side. Top free agents for the Titans. Who is your top pick as a free agent for the Titans to sign? It could be in-house. It could be out. Chuck says Mike Gesicki no doubt would give Tannehill another weapon. Sean Michael, either had him or hate him, says, here's what's hard for me. I'd like to see a tight end via free agency, but there's no way for me to know who are very good combo tight ends in terms of inline blocking and receiving. That's the question. That's a great one. Does Evan Ingram or Hayden Hurst fit that bill? Is Gesicki a good blocker? Murph weighed in. You can weigh in. Zone TV chat on Twitter or on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline, 615-737-1045. It's Blaine and Mickey on Tuesday. Blaine and Mickey 1045 The Zone. So here's a question for this hour of today's show. We got Coach Mack coming up in hour number 2. Maybe he'll get into some free agents. We can get into a whole bunch of questions with him. He was part of a franchise that built a stadium. That's maybe back on the table for this team. We can ask Coach Mack about that and a whole lot more. Again, that's coming up in hour number 2. But phone lines open 615-737-1045. People weighing in on Twitter. Titans fan with 2 F's and 2 A's, David, on Twitter. Not a certain player, but we definitely need a veteran tight end. Schultz, Njoku, Conklin, or Hurst. I'm thinking Hurst is a real possibility. Love You Blue 77 on Twitter says, ours, H. Landry, Foreman, and B. Jones. There's Gesicki from the Dolphins. Several people weighing in on Facebook as well. Lynette says Gronk.
Oh, that's right. Gronk is out there.
Somebody responded, maybe we need a younger tight end.
I mean, is there's got to be an overwhelming feeling that Gronk is done, right?
I think there's an overwhelming feeling that he would just go into the sunset with Brady. But people keep trying to project him to other teams, and he said he likes Joe Burrow. Yeah. So until Gronk, faxes in the sheet of notebook paper that says "Me Too" to the league office, I don't know.
I just feel like we were all expecting that, right?
He's still only 30 years old, isn't he?
Sure, but he only came out of retirement essentially because of Brady, right? So
got another Super Bowl ring, padded his stats.
Well, I think that rejuvenated him. And that first year, he wasn't the same Gronk. This past season, he's shown flashes of the entire. I think he's going to play again. I think he likes those $10 million checks. I think that's what is going to drive him there. If he doesn't get the kind of money he's expecting, I wouldn't be surprised if they put him on a plane where he's making, $4 million in his eyes. In his mind, he think he's a Hall of Fame tight end.
Right.
He's not going to go for it. So I think he's going to play. I think he's got this goofy way about him. And when they ask him questions, he wouldn't have brought up Joe Burrow as a guy he would play for unless he was thinking about playing. That's kind of how I view it. I could be wrong on that, but I think he's very serviceable. I don't want the Titans to sign him. I don't. I would go a different route, but I think he's very serviceable and can do a really good job. Just not for the Titans. I don't get caught up in the names. I'm looking for longevity. With some tight ends that can impact. They're still young and fresh, and so yeah. But yeah, I don't think he would be happy with the time. I mean, how many times he's going to get the ball either?
He probably would not get it a whole lot.
Yeah. So you want me to give my guy, speaking of tight ends, I'm going down the tight ends and the route for me. And I'm going for the middle level tight end who I think are undervalued because of whatever situation, whether it was an injury, the quarterback, the offensive style. And I like 2 of them that I would go that are kind of multidimensional, but they're more receiving, but they definitely can block. And I would start off with David Njoku for the Cleveland Browns, who I think he's only 26, and I think he had 36 catches for, I think almost 500 yards last season on 53 targets or so. And that's kind of the same numbers Jonnu Smith had before he left, and he signed for $12.5 million. I think they can get him for $8 million or less in a 3-year deal or so. If you can't get him, and he's younger, very athletic player too. I remember him at the U. He was a second-round pick, and he's always been trying the last 2 years to get traded. So he's obviously not happy with the way he's being utilized. So I really like him, and I think he would fit in this style of offense because he can also block, great run after catch, good catch radius, very athletic. I would put him at the top of the food chain as athletic up there with the Dolphins kid, but he's more of a receiver type guy to me. And my second choice, if I went 1-year deal, I would go with Gerald Everett, who played with the Seahawks last year on a 1-year, $6 million deal. But when you watched him when he was with his first 4 years with the Rams, his production and his ability to get open, you'll get to see a little bit more of his athleticism there. And I like those guys. I think they kind of the mid-level, workmanlike, really good players, undervalued. I think that's kind of how the Titans work under JR, and they'll be very productive. Now, just imagine if you take one of these 2 guys, you draft it's a mid-level type year for good tight ends, so you can get one in the 3rd, 4th, or even the 5th round that can contribute, and then maybe you sign one of the guys back that you already have. That's kind of you can use a different tight end as what I'm talking about, Njoku or Everett. You can use a different one. I think Mickey likes another tight end. But I'm like, this is the way I would approach resolving the tight end, because it's not an elite year of the draft for a first round, second round tight end. You don't, and typically you don't use a first or second rounder unless he's elite of the elite. And now Pitts is one.
Pitts is the example, yeah.
So there's nobody coming out this year like that.
That's a top 5 pick.
Right. Yeah. And the Titans are not in the top 5 anyway. So even if it was, they would probably miss out. So I'm kind of would approach it that way. There's some other guys that kind of meet the same standard, but I like these guys because I've watched them a lot. And so I'm kind of going that route as far as the free agents that I'm targeting that I can get for good value, and I'm going to get good production out of them based off of our offense and what we run, unless the Titans decide to do a little bit more in the passing game. Instead of trying to be 50-50, if you go 60-40, running game is less, passing game more, then maybe you go on a reach and go for the Gesicki guy from the Dolphins who's going to command $10 million for sure on the open market or more. I think they're set kind of in their ways and they want to be 50-50. I think it's because they think their quarterback, if you start making them throw over 25 times a game, you can start seeing some flaws or mistakes will be made. I would tend to go the opposite direction. I'm going to make sure you're not our dude, and I'm going to show if you are the dudes and if you got the cojones and all this offseason it ate at you, and I'm going to throw a little bit more. We're going to put it more in your hands so you can be in rhythm. So there are no excuses, and I have none to say why we should keep you. So I would go the opposite direction. That's kind of how I've always thought. And I think Tannehill, I think he knows what's at stake, regardless of the success of the team. Whether he's still going to be a starter in this league after this year, even if the Titans cut him, he still has to perform at a high level. So you're catching him at a real good time. He has to perform well. So if he doesn't, he may not be a starter anymore in this league.
I looked at this because I think we all have tight end at least somewhere in our wish list, and a bunch of people are talking about it in every social media platform. Mm-hmm. 2 tight ends last year had more than 20 catches. Only 2. There were 3 guys who had 20, but only 2 had more than 20. One was Kyle Pitts. He was 68 for over 1,000 yards. The other one was Freiermuth from Pittsburgh. He was 60 for 497. Those were the 2. That was a first-round tight end and a second-round tight end. Nobody else went as high as even the second round. Everybody else was third round or back, and nobody else had more than 20 receptions amongst the tight end rookies. So that goes back to what you're saying of a 4th-round guy, maybe a 5th-round guy.
What you're saying is don't force the issue because you want a tight end.
Right.
If it is, you have to base it off the actual draft and free agency. Free agency is first, by the way, so you kind of can dictate where you go in the draft based off what you have success in free agency. So that's why we're doing free agency first, and I kind of would approach it that way because it's a weak, let's say, high-tier, top-level tight end, in the draft. So I would say I'm going to address that in free agency. That's where I'm going. And I'm going to get a guy for sure. I've seen him play in the league for 4, 5, 6 years maybe, and I know what he's going to bring to the table. And oh, by the way, that doesn't leave Swaim or Ferkser off my list to be maybe put them back in the role they were, especially Ferkser, let's say that. And that he can be that move guy or Swaim could, maybe do more blocking and maybe surprise people when he catches it like he did this past season. So I kind of like going down this road. I wish Pruitt wasn't injured, a horrific ankle injury.
Yeah,
I don't know where that puts him. He may be a free agent late in camp or something like that with maybe the Titans or someone else. I don't know. I think that's where it puts him.
How long does it tip? Because he had the thing where his ankle was dislocated, like where his leg comes up and his foot's pointed the wrong way.
Right, he had the same thing Delanie Walker had.
Yeah.
That's basically the same thing. That's a tough injury to come back and be the same guy you were. Now, it wasn't like he was an elite guy like Delanie Walker, so I think he'll have a little more success because his role wouldn't be that. So I wouldn't be shocked if he wasn't signed until maybe 3, 4, maybe even halfway through the season.
Okay. The Titans had a guard who that happened to a few years ago. They signed a free agent guard on a real economical deal, and it was one of those like he's primed to start, and the first day of training camp, he came up and his foot was pointing the wrong way. I don't remember if he ever really played.
That's tough sledding.
Somebody remembers his name. Same thing happened to dislocated ankle.
And also,
Lord.
Lucas, you would remember the one tight end is coming back who I really liked in college from Kansas State. It was in camp. with the Titans. I can't remember his name.
Riley
Moore.
Riley Moore.
He
I
was
almost
doing
said
well.
Riley Parkway.
Right. He may factor into this that he had a whole offseason because he got hurt in training camp. So
No, he factors in for sure.
right, see,
you got that right.
Now all of a sudden, we got 4 guys. I mean, so you don't have to go all in and spend a mountain at tight end, So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I know if you could get an elite one, I know is Zach Ertz out there, the Gronk.
That's what Lonzo asked about
We can go
Zach
down the
Ertz.
list. I
That's
mean,
mine
even
in the tweet.
Evan Ingram, the pass-catching guy from the Giants, Ole Miss guy.
I
mean, there's some guys. I'm always about the guys that are versatile. They may not be elite at one thing, but they're really good. Based off of this position, tight end, and how they run this offense, I think they value that more in this offense. So if you can't be everything, then you really don't have a spot. I mean, that way, because you're not giving telltales to the other team on what you're actually running. That's why you do that. To have versatility in their games. And you don't have to be a great blocker, but you got to be able to get in the way. You have to be able to move somebody and try to block. So that's, that's kind of my view. I think that's where they went wrong with Ferkser. And I don't know if it's him or them. They tried to make him into something that he actually wasn't. That means they try to put weight on him and make him say, oh, you're going to be an all-around tight end, instead of just accepting who he is and use him as that role as a pass-catching tight end and leave him there. He put on extra weight. He then gets injured. His body wasn't used to that weight, and he didn't even look like nowhere near the same player. So I like the versatile guys, the guys that can do a little bit of everything really good. They're not elite, but they're really good at everything.
But it sounds like you're talking about walking a line in free agency, not having the space to spend $12 million a year on a tight end, but also not wanting to lean in this window.
Yeah.
You don't want to lean on a rookie tight end, right? It's very rare that those guys come in and Freiermuth is probably more of an exception, and Pitts is a dinosaur. He's a unicorn.
Right. But
Well said, Lucas.
Maybe
Exactly
you want to
what I'm
pay the
saying.
whole room $12 million or $10 million. But it's a mid-level veteran. It's maybe like we were talking about just before the show. Maybe you slim Ferkser's butt back down and just make him who he was and bring him back. But as Ferkser, not as anything more, the Ferkser that we all knew and loved. Mm-hmm. And then you draft a guy. And that's your 3 guys. And then where does Riley Moore insert himself into the conversation?
Mine was Zach Ertz, who you just brought up.
Mm-hmm. Who's a great receiving tight end.
I had Dalton Schultz as more of a wish list kind of guy, but he's probably going to command more of a bigger salary than that.
He's a freakishly large monster of a man.
12
Gesicki
touchdowns
and
last 2 years.
Schultz, and who's the other guy? Those 3 are going to get big money.
Yeah, Schultz is going to. That probably wouldn't be the fit. So I would lean more towards an Ertz, who's 31, produced last season, really gave the Cardinals a nice boost, a nice third down tight end, a chain mover. And his salary, as he gets older, is probably going to continue to dwindle, and he still seems like an effective player to me in this league. So I think that's where I would go. Schultz be more of a wish list, wish you could have him kind of guy. But I think Zach Ertz be more realistic option as a veteran presence, especially if you are going to bring in a rookie in one of those mid to late round picks.
I want to bring this guy. I didn't even think about this guy because he wasn't in the sheet. But isn't he a free agent? The tight end, Azuma from the Bengals.
CJ Azuma.
Yeah.
I like his skill sets. I don't know what he's going to cost to command, but that's kind of where I'm going with this tight end. Now, for sure, good tight end, not break the bank type of guy.
I don't think Uzoma's going to break anybody's bank. I think he'd be a good value somewhere. That's another really big dude. I mean, he's full size, that guy. He's like one of those 6'6" kind of guys. Mm-hmm. Mine was I went home. I stayed at home, although Lonzo was saying Juju I think would excel. Bruce says in the Zone TV chat, I would love to see them sign Juju from the Steelers. He's making a run.
Is that your guy, Mickey?
Well, my main guy's at home, and Kenneth says this in the Zone TV chat. He said, it's kind of boring because I expect J-Rob to slow play free agency. Oh, he just disappeared. But he said, I lost him on the screen here because it updated, but he essentially said his target is Harold Landry, and he would expect the same from John Robinson.
So that's what you're talking about when you say stay at home. You're saying
I'm saying stay at home and start with Harold Landry. He played the second most defensive snaps on the Titans this year behind Byard. He played 981 snaps as an outside linebacker. That's 90%.
No, remember he played too many snaps the year before. He can't play. They got to rest him.
He played 1,000 the year before,
Yeah,
1,000 plus.
That never comes into play about any player at any time, even the running back.
Anytime
They
that
could
came
care
up,
less.
anytime that came up, you always said, stop that.
Yeah.
They are out over there. Nobody's over with a calculator.
Nobody can't. No,
Hey, man.
we're trying to win games, man.
Harold, stay out.
Yeah.
Stay out.
Yeah, even when you're tired, stay out there. Yeah, I would be upset when Javon Curse would be on the sideline in his third down. What are you doing? Get out of here. That's what I'd be yelling. What are you doing? I'm tired. I'm exhausted. How are you faster than me and you're tired? I mean, the linemen aren't as fast as you. I just chased down that receiver you missed, Blaine.
In my days as a TV anchor, I was covering. I worked at WBKL in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and Western Kentucky's football team was a couple of years away from winning the national championship. But Willie Taggart was the quarterback. He hate me. Rod Smart was a running back.
I played with him, by the way.
Yep, he hate me.
I played with He Hate Me.
Yeah, in Philly.
In Philly.
He's a kick returner.
We used to sit in the cold hot tubs, and I'd laugh and be like, where'd you come up with He Hate Me? He said, because they was always hating on me.
Wait,
I said, what do you mean?
pre or
They kept on
post?
saying I wasn't that good.
Is that before or after the XFL?
After the XFL,
Okay.
when I played with him.
That kind of started his opportunity. He was a good player. He's had some injury issues, even at Western Kentucky. They had a fantastic wide receiver guy named Joey Stockton who got like 2 targets a game, caught both of them for 70 yards and was a fantastic kick returner. But they had a fullback named LaTravis Powell, and he was kind of the linchpin for everything. And he got hit so hard on a play and driven into the dirt when he got up, his entire face mask was covered in dirt. So he sort of pulled some dirt and started running to the sidelines. I'll never forget Jack Harbaugh going, LaTravis, what are you doing? And he goes, I need to come out to get the mud out of my face. And he goes, LaTravis, you don't ever take yourself out. You're too valuable. So he turned around and other people started to dig. But it's like, no, you play with mud on your mask.
Yeah.
You're too important, LaTravis. We need a fullback because they ran the option. It was beautiful. Willie Taggart as an option quarterback. Woo-hoo-hoo, I have goosebumps. He was amazing. He was an amazing quarterback. He finished like.
So how did we get out of this rabbit hole?
Sorry,
you
they
down?
don't. Sorry,
Landry, a lot of snaps.
Landry, a lot of snaps like LaTravis Powell. Okay, here's where I'm going with this. He's 25 years old. He had 12 sacks. It's his career best. He also had 75 tackles. So of the guys with double-digit sacks, only 4 of them had more than 68 tackles. He was one of them. He had 75. Aaron Donald, Micah Parsons, and Hayward of Pittsburgh, they had in the 80s. But he's got a great motor. The other thing is, and Blaine started pointing this out in the middle of the season, they're using Landry in coverage.
A lot.
A lot. He also plays in coverage. So he's 25 years old. He's having his best season. And I don't think he's one of these guys that, hey, it's my contract year. He played 1,000 snaps at outside linebacker. You always get this guy's best. They put some better players around him. And some might say, well, if it took that for him to, I'll give you a little bit of a wink and a nod on that. But he had some better players around him, and his game went up to the absolute next level. Now, here's my last thing. Let's just say they said, we're not going to do it. We're going to let him go.
But depending on what he's asking.
What he's asking.
What's the line for you?
I keep seeing
Because I think it's a question if he's a linebacker or an end. Nobody's talking about this, but I think every time I see him, his name, it says linebacker.
Yeah.
That number is lower than the defensive end.
It's like 17, and defensive end number is probably 18 and a half. That's his franchise tag number. Here's the determining factor for me. It's almost impossible for them, it seems like, over the years to find and develop a pass rusher. Just like they've had trouble over the years finding and developing a top-flight wide receiver. They finally have a chance with A.J. Brown. He's the first guy we're talking about since Derek Mason. They've had trouble looking for the next. They've had guys who've had a year or two. They've gotten free agents, Jason Babin or Kevin Carter or different guys who had a burst here or there. Kyle Vanden Bosch was a really good free agent acquisition. Here's what we're looking at under J-Rob. Kevin Dodd was a second-round pick, same as Harold Landry. Didn't work out. They gave Vic Beasley a bunch of money. It didn't work out. They gave Clowney a bunch of money. It didn't work out. They drafted DeAndre Walker. At this point, I'm just trying to find somebody. DeAndre Walker, I think, played one game in the NFL, 5th-round draft pick out of Georgia. I just don't think you can take a chance that you find a guy like this and then you let him go. And you and I have talked about this a whole lot. And Lucas, you've heard us talk about it, and I'm sure you've got thoughts on it too. I love the idea of building the defense from the front to the back, meaning if you can get to the quarterback, don't have to cover him near as long. You don't have to cover on the back end nearly as long. And I love keeping that front four together as long as I can. I don't think they can afford to franchise tag him. That would be my first thing is let's just see if we can kick the can down the road. But you can't eat an $18 million hit in 1 year. You just can't. So why not give him his $17 per year in a way that you can pay for it, keep the front four together, and I think that'll help everything else that happens behind it. I don't think you can let Harold Landry go. And then I can get into like my discount tight end maybe that you chase, who's not one of the top guys, who is Tyler Conklin of Minnesota. And I like
I like that guy too.
I like that dude a lot. He had his best year, and he blocks. He's a combo guy, and I don't think he's going to cost you crazy money. Mm-hmm. So I'm starting at home with Harold Landry.
Okay.
That's where I'm starting with. And I know they need a tight end, but I'm a Tyler Conklin guy.
So where you got, Lucas?
I had Zach Ertz.
Oh, that's it.
That's the one I brought in.
How? Well, let's get on the other side because I'm curious. He's 31. How long for Zach Ertz? I want to hear what you're thinking contract-wise. You can join the discussion. Emily says, thanks for all the Hilltopper love, Mickey. I absolutely loved covering that team. And Jack Harbaugh is one of my all-time favorite dudes.
Man, I disagree with both you guys, so come back and listen to why.
The hitman is going to hit us next, Blaine Mickey.
Unleashed.
Hey, Rocket, what's my mortgage rate? Rocket, when am I closing? Is anyone there? Rockets are really cool, but they don't speak mortgage. You need a home loan expert for that. Get pre-approved for your next mortgage at thehomeloanexpert.com.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Avanci says, we're talking about Titans free agent. Who's your top free agent target, man? That tight end has never been talked about so much in this town. Avancies or Avancies. I think I'm trying to not put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable here. Says they need a tight end that can consistently attack the seam of the field. Lonzo says get Conklin. We're talking about not Jack Conklin, but Tyler Conklin. He said, if not, go heavily after Juju. Why not both if you can afford them? Why not both? That's my value pack. Wow. Then you draft a tight end and you draft a receiver. What they do with Julio Jones is going to be fascinating to me too. What did they do? Did they just eat the second-round draft pick that they sent away for him? Did they just eat it? They just put it on two pieces of bread and throw some cheese on there and just eat that?
I have no idea. That's what I'm fascinated with because – John Robinson just got an extension, so I don't think he fears losing his job for giving up a second-round pick. Because if you cut him, which everybody's talking about, when it comes to Julio, come June, you can save yourself some money on the cap and everything else. Well, you gave up a second round. You don't get that back. So that's kind of interesting. So I'm interested to see if they get a chance to trade back from the 26th pick and maybe draft, 30 and pick up a second-round pick and have a first and a second rounder. I would be interested in that. But, Juju's a good player. After, he didn't show he was a number one. He's just a good player. I don't know he's going to have to do a 1-year deal. He was injured most of the year with a shoulder surgery. So if you can get him for, a going rate, I think he did 1 year, $7-8 million or so last year.
1 for 8, then played 5 games.
Yeah, and he played 5 games. See, so... Yeah, so he may have to do another deal like that. I would probably propose to him a 3-year deal around that price range and see what he'd be thinking. But he's thinking he's going to be, he's still young too.
Yeah, he's 25, I think he's 25.
Yeah, so, him and Ertz, I wouldn't mind Ertz. I just don't know what the price is. I think he still thinks he's in the elite category. I think he's a real good player, a good pass receiving, and can threaten down the middle of the field. If the price is right, Ertz is cool, but he is a kind of more of a one-dimensional guy to me. He does get in the way, but I think Vrabel wants those guys that are they do more than get in the way.
So how long are you willing to go and for how much, Lucas, for this 31-year-old tight end that you like?
Yeah, Ertz.
Ertz made $5.5 million in 2021.
Yeah.
How much?
$5.5 million.
Oh no, he's going to ask for more than that.
I would
going to ask for 7 to 8. They were. I got it right here, based off what he made last year and his production. I mean, yeah, after getting traded, yeah, that's a low number for it. $5 million.
5.5 was his base salary in 2021.
That was his base. Is that just with Arizona, or that's not including Philadelphia?
I'm looking at the spot track numbers now, and it just tells you 2021 with Arizona. Now, I think Arizona just inherited his contract with Philadelphia. Right. So it's $5.5 million base salary, the same with the cap hit. For me, it's about the here and now, right? It's about the window. When you talk about not wanting to draft a tight end early on because of kind of the recent history or lack thereof of rookie tight ends making an impact with guys like Freiermuth and Pitts and Evan Ingram being an exception, then you're talking about the window. You're talking about the window of the 2021 season. So I think I'd lean towards a 1-year deal.
I don't know if you do when you're here. Listen to this, though, and it's still, it's not too far off of what you're saying. Jimmy Graham had a 2-year, $16 million deal with the Bears in 2020. Kyle Rudolph, which they're kind of in the same category as far as age.
I wanted Kyle Rudolph every year for like 6 years.
Because they're on the other side of 30.
Yeah.
He had a 2-year, $12 million, so $6 million. And so Ertz is going to have to be around that range. He had 74 catches for 763, which was 9th among tight ends. So, and he averaged 52 yards a game once he got to the Cardinals, not with the Eagles, but with the Cardinals. So if he can produce like that, 6, 7, you may be right.
Maybe 1 to 2 year deal, but he definitely increased his value.
Yes.
In Arizona, where it was decreasing rapidly in Philly, maybe to no fault of his own.
Yeah, spotty quarterback play, and it's not a shot at Jalen Hurts, but he's trying to find his way in the NFL, and not a lot of experienced quarterbacks.
Why wasn't the tight end the safety valve?
That's a good question. I throw to the tight end. Hey, man, he's 3 yards away. The other guy's 17. I'm throwing to the tight end.
Well, the tight end out of North Dakota State in Philadelphia that I'm blanking on. He had a really nice second half of the season once Ertz made his way to Arizona.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
he's searching. He's his own search.
Catch-22 there. I could go with Ertz at a modest good deal, 2-year deal. Lucas for 6 to 7. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Ertz he's solid. I just never see him blocking a lot. He gets in the way though. He does get in the way. Gotta give him that. So.
Dallas
and
Goddard.
he is
Dallas
production.
Goddard. That's who I was trying to
Goddard.
Yeah.
Goddard. But notice how his production went up when he went to a passing offense.
Yeah.
Now, we could say, they're 50-50. Well, they really want to throw the ball because Murray and all the receivers they had. So that kind of helped get his numbers back where they should be. So I just got to be careful on if I'm looking at it from a cap perspective and a coaching perspective, how much do I actually utilize the tight end? Like, would it be better to spend money on another receiver or a tight end? Like, as you guys are mentioning, Juju, who I think's a good number 2. And if Julio falters and is not healthy again, you have a security blanket for maybe a year. So it's a tough one. He got to make some moves here. I'm interested to see where they go to restructure, redo, cut in veteran players. I'm going to say this, and you guys are not going to like this. I love Harold Landry and everything he does as a player. But I think he's viewed, regardless of his numbers this past season, I think he's viewed as a really good player, not an elite player. And that is going to be interesting. And somebody's going to pay him because he had the numbers. But when I'm evaluating him, since we got to watch him for a long time, I would put him in the $15 million range per year, and I would feel very comfortable as a GM, especially here, of what he brings to the table. Because when we talk about all the players around him got better, well, then that made his job easier. If I'm going to pay somebody $19 million, per, he's got to be the lead of the lead. And I think that money went to Dupree. And I think he could be, let's just say, a little easier to replace of the 4 since their contracts are existing. And I'm giving Simmons. I'm already negotiating. If I'm GM, I'm already negotiating with Simmons and A.J. Brown right now. That's where I'm going to get some cap relief right now. I'm getting them as they're young players. I'm going to give them maybe overpay for this first year, but in the long run of their contracts, I win as a GM. It's going to get lower and lower. Next thing you know, they're going to be underpaid in the next 2 years, and then I look like, the smartest guy in the room. So that's kind of how I view it. I think I'm probably letting to see what's out there on Harold Landry. I could go in the draft. I could go in free agency. There's some guys out there that put up some numbers that were solid. Heineke, you can go out there like another Hendricks that we let slip away yesterday. I mean, last year they went with the Bengals, who was very productive. You can get a veteran guy in for a 1-year, 2-year deal that's at the end and can still produce, let's say, 8 to 10 sacks. So I just think he's going to get a lot of money on the market. I don't think I want to give out all 4 of those guys. As much as I want to keep them together, all of them can't be making big dough.
Yeah.
Not that level.
Do you have a cap, or you just tell his people, hey, man, for $15 million, come on back?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the best I can do.
That's my line.
That's your line. Okay.
Yeah, that
GM Blaine.
As much as I like him as a player, I mean, Autry, Simmons, and Dupree, all are going to be making, in my mind, priority is Simmons is in front of Harold Landry. I know he's not a free agent, but I'm gonna get him cheaper than what if he becomes a free agent. I'm screwed.
Yeah, he's even gonna be more. Yeah, cap's going up.
So I got it. This is a good first round and his second round, and maybe you can look up in if you trade back and get a second round that kind of fits the same bill as Harold Landry. He may not get the production that he got this year. Let's not forget this was a 1-year exceptional year by him. So I think overall he's an 8-sack type of guy. A year.
All right, the hit man, just hit us on that one.
And, hey, I like him, and I get it. Everybody wants to bring him out. I do too, but I can't pay him the boatload. He wants to be the highest priced guy in the room. Nah. The highest priced guy in the room is going to be a guy named Big Jeff.
He's going to get big paid. We got to take a big break. It won't be that long, though. You come back, we'll hit you with headlines. A lot of people wondering what Aaron Rodgers said today to Pat McAfee. We can get that for you and more. And Coach Mack in 25 minutes. Blaine and Mickey.
He said he hate me.
It is 2:03. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. 17th ranked Tennessee will look to bounce back from a loss at Arkansas on Saturday. That game ended an 8-game win streak in SEC play for the Vols. Tonight, they travel to Missouri, facing former coach Conzo Martin and the 10-17 Tigers. Tip-off is at 6 p.m. Hear the Vol Network broadcast right here on 104.5 The Zone. Vanderbilt at 14-12 will play host to 24th ranked Alabama tonight at Memorial Gym. Tip-off is set for 8 p.m. on the SEC Network. A change in scheduling in college baseball later today. This from at Vandy Boys on Twitter, the account of Vanderbilt baseball. Due to the threat of inclement weather, today's game between Vanderbilt and North Alabama has been postponed. The rescheduled date will come at a later time. So Vanderbilt not going to be in action tonight at Hawkins Field. Tennessee will in Knoxville at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, hosting Tennessee Tech. First pitch coming up in about an hour and a half at 3:30. The Preds have lost 4 in a row since the All-Star break. They have slid to 4th in the Central Division. Back on the road tonight at the Florida Panthers, a 6 p.m. puck drop. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Stay dry out there, people. It's a lot of rain. A lot. Saw a car on its side today when I came in. He hit like a foot of water on the interstate.
Yeah.
Wound up on his side, so don't do that.
They're okay. But we forgot to mention, and I'm thoroughly disappointed in you, Mickey. Today is, Lucas, what is today's date?
It's the 16th birthday of one Audrey Ryan.
It is.
Sweet 16.
2/22. She has known for years that her 16th birthday was 2/22/22.
And I'm sorry, but that's not what I was referencing.
Oh, happy birthday, Audrey.
And
whatever is next from Uncle Blaine. Yes.
Yeah. What else is today?
It's the first day where the window opens for the franchise tag in the NFL.
No!
I know
Wrong
what it
answer.
is. It's the 42nd anniversary of the United States men's gold medal winning hockey team beating the Russians in Lake Placid.
Wrong.
Wow. This is all great stuff.
Those are 3 very important things.
No, those are all great things.
I mean, we're killing it here.
I was creating a day today. That's why it doesn't. You guys can't figure it out. Today is 2/22/22. Somebody's number was 2 in college. Somebody's pro number was 22, and it is the year 2022. So this is King Henry Day.
Hey, and the NFL 2022 league year officially starts in 22 days.
Bang. Drop the mic. Bye.
Should we buy some lottery tickets or something at this point?
I feel like today should be
It feels like there's something we're
Today
missing
is
here.
King Henry Day, man.
Audrey
And
Ryan
Audrey's
would argue
birthday,
today
too.
is Audrey Ryan Day.
Everybody will
Say, move
remember
over,
her
King.
birthday because it was on King Henry's Day.
Well, that's true.
Everybody will remember.
Well, I hope his foot feels good.
Yeah,
I hope his foot feels
it's gonna feel
fantastic.
great. I'm sure Tannehill hopes it feels fantabulous.
His offensive line needs to get figured out, too, in front of him and Tannehill. We spent a lot of the first hour talking about your top free agent choice for the Titans. Did you guys notice no one went down the road of offensive linemen thinking that Saffold or Lewan or Ben Jones might be gone because Jones is a free agent or other guys are kind of no one. We've got this is the most Zone TV chat response we've ever gotten on this show.
Well, you asked us who do we think they're going to sign. That doesn't mean they're not going to make some cuts.
Well, I mean, it's who we want.
Well, if I
We
want
have
to
in our
get real
wish list.
creative, I will go down the offensive line, and they're not going to like it.
Uh-oh.
Your man, Dylan Radins, is now starting at guard. Sorry, bye, Sappho, 32, got to roll, whatever age he is. He had a great year, Pro Bowl. I think that's why he tweeted out, I'm not retiring, because there's rumors out there, I'm sure, so the Titans could cut him and then bring him back for cheap or something like that. I'm sure that happens all the time behind the scenes. So, or he would have not make that statement. Dylan Radins, I'm not sure on the Ben Jones is a free agent. I don't know what direction you go. But I think you can get by with, Brewer or somewhere in there I like, or maybe a little bit better. But I have a creative idea, and I'm not sure if it's going to work.
Well, I'm all ears on this.
The number one offensive tackle that is available is Orlando Brown Jr. I'm going to just call him Zeus Jr.
Lil Zeus, yeah.
This guy is a humongous man, and he played with the Chiefs last year. They got him in a trade from the Ravens. He was unhappy that he was playing frontside tackle, not the blindside tackle, because he wants the blindside money, and he thinks he's that good. I think he's good. I don't know if he's that good, but if you want to fix this offensive line and you in cap trouble, just lay out the dollars, and they'll come. Bring in the Zeus Jr., move Lawan to frontside tackle. Dylan Radins at guard. Whoever you want to put at center, solid player, whether it's Ben Jones or somebody else. You got the right side done now. Quisenberry's a backup. That's what he is. And guess what? Guess what you're going to fix? Not just the offensive line. You're going to fix Tannehill. That's what you're going to do. You're going to get him better pass protection where he doesn't have to stay in that tunnel that he was throwing from every week on 3-step drop and let it fly. Now you can do some 5, some 7, and not keep a tight end in, and you get him instantly fixed. Kind of rolling like that. Or you could just put him on front side, just paying big-time money. However you want to do it. That's kind of how I'm going to roll. And that also, I think, in some form of fashion, that helps give you some relief, too, with some of the cap. Now, you got to move some other things around at the same time, but they're going to have to get that line fixed.
Would you start a center that you picked at 26 if you picked a center at 26? Or could fixing the line be somebody who gets picked at 20, the Penning guy from Trevor Penning or somebody?
Well, for me personally, I'd be a little frightened of a smaller school guy in the first round. That's just me based off the history. That doesn't mean this guy won't be really good.
Right.
If I'm going to take a center, which I would never do in the first round, he better be the best center alive. He better be able to come right in and start right away.
Yeah. He'd have to.
But I'm not prone to take a center.
Okay.
And reason why I say that is the prime positions that you want elite guys, you can get away with an average center and not an elite center. Now, if you can kind of go back and look at like some of the Titan centers, besides Bruce Matthews, where did Mawai go in the draft? I know he went to the Jets. That's when I played against him. I think you go tackle, you go quarterback naturally high in the draft. You go some skilled positions. Naturally, that means DB, receiver, cornerbacks. More so, unless you get an elite guy at that position. If you believe this center is the best of the best and come right in and he's sharp mentally and can pick up the system and is an elite athlete, okay. I would always go guard first if I was going to go down that road because I can always move him to center if he had something in the background. If he's just a center, because usually those guys are a little bit smaller, a little bit. If he doesn't work out, and he should if he's a first rounder, then you look like crap. But I think you can get a good center, have to go first round.
I was thinking of the kid Linderbaum from Iowa, Tyler Linderbaum.
I don't know much about him.
He's getting like really high projections. And I agree with you. The quarterback, the guy who tries to tackle the quarterback, the blindside guy who protects the quarterback.
Pass rusher.
Yeah, an otherworldly cornerback or receiver. Like that's who gets picked in the first round now. Probably won't be any tight ends that go in the first round. This is the kid, his name who I've seen like really project out, Linderbaum of Iowa.
Okay,
like come in and to be a linchpin type guy for you.
If you think he's that good, yeah, I wouldn't have an issue. At least then you knew that Mickey wasn't going to throw a TV through. I mean, something through the TV, a brick like or something.
And then Creed Humphrey started for the Chiefs this year, and he was a second-round pick. He was Oklahoma center and then started for the Chiefs this year. They picked that dude, and then they made him the starter.
In the second round.
Yeah, and then they had Trey Smith, who anybody could have had. They all had 6 chances at him. Yeah.
Well, they were fearful, and then, that was COVID year, too, so they probably were just a little nervous in getting all the tests and what to do. But there were some examples in the league of players who had the same condition or somewhat similar condition, let's say. And he was very productive. As I said before, I always thought he was going to be a guard. He's a plugger. He's mean. He's aggressive. Most tackles, you're mean, but you know how to contain the aggression that you have because it can play against you against some of these elite rushers.
Sure.
They'll use your aggressiveness against you in pass protection. So That's why I always thought he was going to be a guard. And I remember me and when Marky Mark would go out, I said, no, he's a guard. He's a guard. And then he didn't have that kind of movement skills
Right.
of a guard. I mean, of a tackle. So, yeah, I think he's solid. He's going to be entrenched, and he'll get what he deserves. He should have been, at worst case, top 3 round guy.
Yeah.
Easy all day. Now, he had the condition, so I thought I was shocked that he went that late.
Coach Mack set to join us next. Buffalo from Portland is on right quick. Let's take one quick phone call on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. What's going on, Buffalo?
Just listening to A.A. Ron Rodgers making a fool of himself on Bill the Packers fan today. He acted like he'd been married to Yoko Ono and out on a trip with John Lennon. What's up with that dude? The hair, the grease, the smell of it. You could just smell he didn't smell good. What's wrong with him?
Well, as Blaine pointed out, he came back to speak to he dropped if people haven't seen this, he dropped this lengthy post on his Instagram just saying thanks to a bunch of people. Then all these pictures of people he was thanking. Then the last picture was the Packers sidelines without him on it. Then he went on to Pat McAfee show and he goes, "Oh no, I was just grateful because I came back from a 12-day colon cleanse or something like that."
Yeah, he'd been on a fast, and by the way, that picture is when I was out with COVID, and they sent this picture to me, and he spun it all around. Man, this dude is on Planet Z out. He's out there.
Yep.
Y'all have a good show today in the rain. Be safe.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, I'm glad he called in because this is what all you Titans fans want. Aaron Rodgers. Well, there's a lot of things you get with Aaron Rodgers.
Colon cleanses.
Yeah, and the colonics too, by the way. The heck? I mean, come on, man. I mean, are
been
you
doing it for
an
hundreds of years,
attention
he said.
seeker, or do you just want to play ball? I just want the guy to. That's the difference between him and Peyton Manning. Dude, I'm all about that ball, man. Don't be playing games here.
Even Ryan Tannehill, for that matter, he just plays ball.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what
Hitting
you.
the
So you
mouth
want to
and
bring
gets
this
up.
guy in, and if he doesn't win a championship or come close or in the Super Bowl, he'd be like, nope, I don't like it here. I'm out. Huh?
Try to take Derrick Henry to get a 12-day cleanse with him.
Yeah, man. So he's that's what I said. He's from he's got his own little style about him, and you got to know that comes with him
Yeah.
with his elite play. But you gotta love his talent. So
Back-to-back Hall of Fames. He hinted like he's still back, that he's still with his lady. And everybody said they were broken up in his post.
yeah, he said no hard feelings. We still good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds.
Okay.
And then
That was cool.
he did the thing with Pat McAfee. We can play that when we finish up with Coach Mack. But let's take a break. Coach Mack will join us next. Maybe we can ask him if he's ever had a 12-day cleanse. I can't imagine the response we'd get. Coach Mack. Blaine Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
You talk about
Mickey 104.5 The Zone. Let's talk to our good friend here coming up, Coach Dave McGinnis.
The Mac Attack.
Lucas Panzica is.
We got to read some of these responses here. There's been some really good responses there, Mickey.
Talking about Aaron Rodgers' colon cleanse. JP says maybe Tannehill. That's all he needs is a colon cleanse before the playoffs, so he won't play like something. It's something that rhymes with fit. Yeah. Many people. Somebody said Rodgers looks like he keeps his nail clippings in jars. Brandon says he probably collects crystals.
Huh?
I used to collect crystal hamburgers and eat them. Coach Mack joins us now.
What?
Coach
Over
Mack.
Whataburger?
Yeah, well, there wasn't Whataburger, but there were crystals here. Coach, you ever go like 2 a.m. and get yourself a truckload of crystal hamburgers at some point in your life?
No.
Crystals weren't real big where I grew up.
Yeah,
Whataburgers were.
Whataburger.
Yeah, I know
Texas, man.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah. Whataburgers were. I had a lot of buddies that had been to places where crystals were big, and yes, they used to consume them by the trash can full.
Well, I'm wondering now that you say that, man. Have you ever had what Aaron Rodgers had here? What was it? A colon cleanse? What did he have?
So Aaron Rodgers put something on his Instagram like he always does and got people talking. And he said, I just come out of a 12-day cleanse. So, I was just trying to be grateful. You ever do a 12-day cleanse or any length of day cleanse, Coach Mack?
I'll tell you what, guys. Both of you guys, don't sign me up for any cleanse, okay? If people are handing out cleanses, don't sign Coach Mack up for them. I'm fine.
Fair enough. We will not go. we will go with you to anywhere but that. So Lucas has hand signaled me. You are in Birmingham, right, where the USFL draft is this evening. They're about to announce who some quarterbacks are going to be, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I drove down here this morning. I've been visiting with all the coaches, and Daryl Johnson is the commissioner of this thing, and so I've just kind of been hanging out, with them all day. Have already been over. I'm sitting outside Protective Stadium right now. It is a beautiful stadium in downtown Birmingham here that they're going to play a lot of their games at. They're going to play some at Legion Field. I've already been over to the setup for the draft that's going to kick off later this evening at 6 o'clock. I mean, it's a nice setup. It's going to be interesting. And with Jeff Fisher involved, as one of the head coaches of one of the teams, and I know all the guys that are head coaches of the other one, so it's kind of just been like a nice convention for me down here today, seeing everybody.
It was interesting because the original USFL coach, and I'm sure you remember it well and have plenty of thoughts about it, they signed some NFL veterans, some guys who'd been around a long time and maybe couldn't get a starting job, and they signed some guys who had been starters and were kind of on the other side of their career. But then they also drafted guys like Doug Flutie and Steve Young and paid them big money. I know it'll be a different story for this current incarnation of the USFL, but who the quarterback is, that'll get fans' attention, hopefully, because I want this league to succeed.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, that first iteration of the USFL, I mean, they got completely way out over the top of their skis.
Yeah.
When Jim Mora was head coach of the Philadelphia Baltimore Stars, I interviewed with him for a secondary job, and he ended up hiring Dom Capers, who had been a GA for him, at the University of Washington. I mean, I go back a long way to this thing, but a lot of really good NFL coaches coached in that original iteration of the USFL. And so, but this one, Fox is involved in this one. They're doing it a lot more intelligently than the Alliance did. They're not spending a whole lot of money up front. They're doing things first class, but not being outrageous with it.
Yeah.
And investing with Daryl Johnson today, I mean, it's it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to do it. But they've got a good idea. They're keeping all 8 teams here for the season. They're putting them all up in the hotels here downtown, so they don't have any travel expenses.
Yeah.
And so, they want to make it work. And as you said, Mickey, for the opportunities for players that need an opportunity. And that's, what it is. It's another chance league is what it is. I've been through, all the permutations of all these other chance leagues. The best one, the most successful, was the one that the NFL backed for a long time, is NFL Europe.
Yeah.
But I've been impressed with what I've seen so far. So I'm going to be here at the draft tonight and see how it goes.
Well, Coach, let me ask you, I don't know if you know the actual requirements here, because you guys are talking about quarterbacks. I just want to throw this out there and see if you kind of give us the answer. And that is, who are eligible to be drafted? Can you be on a practice squad with an NFL team? That's what I'm more referencing, coming out of college naturally, or, what are some of the requirements here, in particular the quarterbacks? But that's all.
Well, you can't have a contract with anybody else.
Oh.
Number one. And then the other thing they're doing, Blaine, too, before they draft anybody, they're having people sign contracts with the league. It's a standard contract. Mm-hmm. They're going to be 36 players on each roster, so it's a standard contract, for everybody. And so they're going to, before you can even be drafted, you're going to have to sign a contract with the league, because they're not to that point. I don't think. I haven't.
Right. It's a standard contract, like everybody's making $50,000 or something like that.
Everybody, yeah. I think it's going to be somewhere in that range. They're going to play 10 games, and then they're going to play their playoff game, and then their championship game at Canton. They're going to play it at Canton Stadium. They're at the Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm interested. It's coaching jobs, it's playing jobs, it's trainer jobs, it's somebody working social media accounts and websites and all that. It's more jobs for everybody. I'm hoping that it works. We'll certainly look forward to hearing more about this from Coach Dave McGinnis, who joins us now. He's brought to you by Farm Bureau Health Plans. You need great health care coverage and affordable price. Let Farm Bureau Health Plans coach you through it. They got you covered.
Well, Coach, naturally free agency is up first before the combine, and kind of take us into the back rooms when you were a head coach, DC, and all the time you've been in the National Football League as a coach, and kind of how do you assess your team first before you go about talking about your needs? Is it kind of like the draft too, and if we lose this player, then we'll go after these 2 or 3 players, or kind of just take us through those conversations? I love to, hear those conversations, how you come up with decisions, because sometimes it never goes according to plan, but you always, just like a draft, you have to be prepared to have these counter moves and everything else, just in case it doesn't work out and you get the guy you want, whether it's a guy already on your roster or in free agency.
Yeah, Blaine, that's a very good way to put it. And you're right. You've got to be able to layer it. And, since the inception of free agency and the salary cap in the National Football League, putting your team together, has gotten, you have to move in a lot of different avenues. The franchise and transition tag that you mentioned is available to everybody, and you have to decide, when you want to do that. And most of the time people now, Blaine, are using, if they do use a franchise tag, they're using the franchise tag a lot like what happened with Derrick Henry. Put the tag, get the player to sign the tag, and then negotiate a contract, because it just gives you a little bit longer, to work on it. Transition tags are really not used as much anymore, because there's different compensation. And in other words, somebody else can make a counter offer on a transition tag, and then clearly you don't have exclusive rights, to that player. So, but it does depend on, as you say, the makeup of your roster at the time, because you really can't depend on the draft as far as being able to fill every need that you have, just for this reason. And you know this very well, and so do our listeners, because they're sophisticated enough in the National Football League, is that you don't know where people are going to fall in the draft. And especially if you're a successful team, as the Titans have been for the last 6 seasons, you're going to be drafting lower in the draft. And so it becomes a little bit more, of an ability to focus and see who might be there. There may be players that you want. Clearly there are, but you're not going to be able to touch them just because of where you think their ability might fall within the picks of the draft before you have it. So all of those things have to be layered in. And then plus, once the league year starts, you've got to be able to fit everybody under the cap originally that it's going to be set for the fiscal year, the National Football League in March 16th. And so that, to me, is something that, they've been planning for a long time, Blaine. And I want, for our listeners to understand, you don't just start planning these types of things right now. These are the types of things that have been talked about throughout the year, because as you guys know, there's a timeline for everything in the National Football League. Everything normally gets done bumping up to the timeline, but you have to be prepared for all the scenarios before that timeline hits.
No doubt about it. We're on with Coach Mack giving us a Mack attack. I guess it's a 2-part question, and it's in regard to more Landry, in that how does the league delineate between a defensive end and a linebacker? Because now we're talking about pay. And could he possibly maybe be a transitional, and then the Titans have a chance to see what his value actually is on the market, and they can match it, even though they could still lose him?
Yeah, and that's the chance you take. Just as I explained, that's the chance you take. Because there is no guarantee that once he gets another offer that he will come back to you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, there is no guarantee with that. And I think most of the time, I mean, I'm going to the combine next week, all week. That's where most of these deals start to be figured out. And that's, and as I said, that legal tampering, those 2 days. Yeah, I still don't understand what that means, but I do know that what it does mean is that you're going to start talking about those types of things, and you have a good idea. You really do. You and your capologist, they have a good idea as far as the money range that the people that are going to be up for contracts with your team would fall within, and that is part of the planning when you start. Now, once you start negotiating, of course, clearly things nearly don't. Things normally nowadays, because of the hard cap, because everybody else is under the same cap. Some people may have more carryover money to this year, but normally the contracts that are offered don't fall too far outside the parameters that you pretty much can figure out before you get there.
Well, with Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack.
Coach, you mentioned the combine. For a while, it looked like there would be some bubble restrictions, and there were 150 players represented, and their agents basically said, we're just not going to do it. We'll do the bare minimum health testing and won't take part in anything else unless you'll lift these restrictions. And when we were talking about it, I said, this is too valuable a property for the NFL. They're going to cave in some kind of way to keep this thing together. And then, of course, we all wake up today, and there's a nice lengthy statement saying, we will accommodate the wishes of the players.
Mickey, you and Blaine and our listeners know that was never going to fly.
No.
They had it on TV now.
No, that was never going to fly. And really, when you start looking at it, I mean, you start thinking about what they were saying, and you know what they were saying. They're going to restrict. I mean, if you've ever been to the combine, all of their trainers, all of their people that these agencies set up for their people. They rent ballrooms at all these hotels, or they rent large spaces at these hotels where these guys can. I mean, they stock it with the food that they are eating. It's gotten all to that point, and then they stretch them and they do everything, and so that was not going to happen. I mean, that was just not going to happen. As soon as I saw that, I went, well, it's going to be over before it ever starts, and it was.
Yes, it was. Titans making some news this week, Coach. The talk that there would be discussions now raised, not on fixing up the old stadium, Nissan Stadium, but of possibly replacing it with a new stadium. So a lot of us have tried to come to some conclusions. Would it be a dome stadium, and where would you put it, and all those kind of things? You are a gentleman who has experienced this with the Cardinals. You went back out west with the Rams, so there was going to be a new stadium there. What is all this process like? And let's say today, Coach, somebody said, let's build one and let's put a lid on it. We're talking about how many years before anybody would ever catch a pass in the thing?
Well, I mean, it just depends on where the funding is coming from. I've been involved in two of them, as you said, very, very deeply, and they were both distinctly different. The one in Phoenix, I mean, we had to pass 3 resolutions. 2 resolutions had failed, and if we don't beat the Washington Commanders or the Washington football team at the time on the Sunday, the Tuesday, before the vote, we beat Washington 16-15. We were a bad team, but we won that game, and everybody was so excited. But there was 2 propositions that had failed, flat out failed, because it was going to involve public funding and taxes there in Maricopa County, and we won that game. And then the vote came, and the vote passed like 50.7% to whatever the other percentage is. And so it makes a difference as how it's funded. The one I was involved in L.A., there was no question. That was all privately funded by Stan Kroenke. Okay? I mean, he wanted no money from anybody. He was paying the whole freight. And then of course the league was clearly wanted a team out there, and then you got involved with moving a team moving an entire team out of a city, and the city of St. Louis, in fact, lost two teams. They lost the Cardinals and they lost the Rams. But the dynamics and the politics of both of those stadiums that I was involved in, probably more deeply involved in the Cardinal Stadium, because that one, I mean, I was stumping door to door, with that one, and myself and Joe Green and Larry Wilson standing at the polling place, and having people get off of buses and saying, we're not voting for you, the NFL's rich. I went through all of it, but at the end of the day, when you could finally get it done and tie in how good it was for the community, well, then everybody was all in for it. And so here, it's wholly, entirely different setup. So we'll see. But the fact that they are starting to investigate it, at least gives you the thought process that they are at least in the thought process of starting this, because all of these things have to start with an idea.
Yes, they do. It's always a great idea to have Coach Mack on. He's joining Blaine and me right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, Coach, we were sitting here talking about the defensive front of the Tennessee Titans and Harold Landry being a part of that, and hopefully he can kind of name your top, after covering the league this season and seeing mostly all the teams at least play. What would be your top five, considering what they were last season, not who's free agent? What were your top five defensive lines in the National Football League?
Well, I think when you look at them, you've got to look at, and when you talk about defensive fronts, Blaine, and you'll understand this when I say this, you've got to differentiate between first and second down fronts and then third down fronts, correct? And we all know that the big thing is if you can get pressure with four, because that's what the game is evolved into now, because we know that people that can cover with seven. So you start looking at it, and you start looking at people that are able to rush with four. First of all, the people at Indy can do that. People at San Francisco can do that. The Rams can do that, right? Yep. I mean, you start looking at people, and the Titans are right in there in that mix. They're one of the best four-man pressure teams, that's going right now. So I think when you start to peel it out and look at it, you've got to look at it different ways, because on first and second down, especially if people are playing solid fronts or playing 5-2 fronts, and they're, and then you got to differentiate between, your pressure, your high pressure teams, how successful they are. And then, as I said, let's go back to what I think is the mainstay for really good pressure teams, is those that can get consistent pressure on third down with four people.
Now, take us through how front offices, being you've been in the room, how you think about your cap and your allocation to position groups. How does those conversations happen, depending on how you want to frame your team and build your team? As you're talking about, your front four have to be huge. How does this come in conversation if all of a sudden all four of your, starting off, defensive linemen are getting paid top dollar?
Well, we reached that point. I can tell you just from personal experience, we reached that point at the Ranch. We first went in there. I mean, Chris Long was still there on a rookie contract, and Robert Quinn was, two excellent edge people. And then we added Michael Brockers. Then we added Aaron Donald. Well, once Quinn and Long started to come up with, big money contracts, and you knew Aaron Donald was going to get it, and Michael Brockers was the number one pick. So after his fourth year, you were going to take his fifth year option and put him up there. So then you have to be able to start making some decisions, because here's the thing: you can't pay everybody at every position. You just can't do it. I mean, it's not feasible, and the reason it's not feasible, not because you don't want to pay them, it's because the way the salary cap works and the opportunities that they have with the other 31 teams. And as you well know, you've only got so long to make money in the National Football League. And so that's where you have to be able to go back to what you first started asking me about in this segment, which was a very good question. You've got to start, these planning things go on early on to start layering it. Because, if you want to make a complete run for it and go all in, at one time, sooner or later, you are going to have to pay. You experienced it, with the Titans back in the day. When it kept a Super Bowl team together and kept kicking the can down the road, but sooner or later you're going to have to pay for it. Well, that's the way everything works now, except now people have got a little better handle on the salary cap, than they used to. But it's hard to load up in one position. You've got to have a couple. Let's talk about the front. You need a couple of bell cows, and then you need some really good young guys that can get it done, but are still on rookie contracts.
There you have it, Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack.
Woo, man, that was a lot of good info, Coach. Fantastic stuff. Enjoy Birmingham, the home of Lucas Panzica, and we'll talk to you next week, sir.
Yeah, Coach, I'm going to
Lucas
watch
told
the game,
me
man.
that. I'm gonna send you guys a picture of the draft board in the room that I'm looking at right now. See ya.
Oh, I want that.
appreciate
I
it.
want it, Coach. I do want it. We'll keep it.
I
We'll
wanna
keep
be
it on the
there.
down low too. Thank you, Coach.
I'll see you guys.
The one and only Coach Mack. When we come back, we'll finish up. What did Aaron Rodgers say to Pat McAfee today about his colon cleanse and his future? We'll have that next.
I feel a lot better.
Hey, Rocket, what's my mortgage rate? Rocket, when am I closing? Is anyone there? Rockets are really cool, but they don't speak mortgage. You need a home loan expert for that. Get pre-approved for your next mortgage at thehomeloanexpert.com.
In a Mickey 104.5, The Zone. Be careful out there. Lots of water on the roads. Just slow down a little bit. You should be fine. So Aaron Rodgers, a lot of people were waiting for Aaron Rodgers to say something like about this Instagram post he posted on Monday. And the last picture was the Green Bay sidelines, and he wasn't on the sidelines. And was this a metaphor for just get used to me not being there? So it goes on the Pat McAfee show today. We got this, Lucas. And people
his words actually kind of alluded to like he wasn't going to be there.
Sounded like a guy saying goodbye, but turns out it was just a guy coming off a 12-day cleanse, being thankful.
Now that we're a couple weeks removed from the season, you've won your second MVP. You look back on the entire year that was. Your just thoughts now that you're a little bit away from it. Is there any different thoughts than you had maybe a couple weeks ago after we talked about your loss?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, let me just put this disclaimer out right away for the few people watching that are tuning in just for a specific maybe news or decision. There will be no news today, no decision on my future. As I was texting with you yesterday, I just got out of a 12-day panchakarma. Look that up. I know you did after we talked. But it's a cleanse that originated in India. It's been going on for thousands of years, and it's something I've done in the off season. So I'm just getting my head above the sand now and seeing what's going on out there. But no decision about my future today. So all you just do
hold
for that.
Hold on.
Now.
Oh, hold on. What was he holding on about after that? He asked him another question.
About his Pontchartrain or whatever it was, his cleanse. They've been doing that for hundreds of years. I watched some more of that. It just turned out to – I'd be glad if I was done with it. I might be posting things about how thankful I was to stop getting cleansed.
Oh, man.
We asked,
did he say he went to India or he –
It's something people in India do.
Okay.
I don't think he necessarily – maybe they just brought the recipe for it over here and he didn't have to fly to India to get it done. We asked Coach Mack when he joined us, was he interested in a 12-day cleanse? And Bruce in the Zone TV chat said, Coach Mack's definition of cleanse is 3 bowls of West Texas 5-alarm chili followed by a 6-pack of Lone Star beer. All consumed in less than 45 minutes.
There you have it.
Y'all, you guys have been on fire today in the Zone TV chat. All right, we talked a whole bunch of free agency today. We talked tons of football, but we want to end with this. Jermaine in the Borough has a basketball thing.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
With a slam dunk.
So let's do it on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Jermaine, what in the world have you got for us?
It's Jermaine Dupree.
Jermaine Jackson.
Yes, I wish I had Jermaine Dupree money.
Don't we all?
I've been watching ESPN and all the sports talk radio, and I've been hearing about LeBron putting all this pressure on Bronny James to make it to the NBA or whatever. We all know that Bronny James is going to make it to the NBA just because of the last name. But my thing is, I'm not a LeBron James fan at all. But I am a fan of him as a man and as a person and what he does for his community. And if he wants to play with his son and show his son like the ins and outs of the NBA, I don't understand why the media is trying to beat LeBron James up over this, talking about that he's trying to put too much pressure on him. I think it's racially profiled and motivated. Like if Tom Brady's son was in the opposite situation, which I'm a strong Tom Brady fan, I think the media would be like, "Oh, this is great. This is a beautiful thing that Tom Brady's doing." But since it's LeBron James and the color of his skin, that's just how I feel about the situation.
What do you mean when you say pressure? What are they actually saying?
That he's putting too much pressure on Bronny James to make it to the NBA. Bronny James has been under pressure ever since he was born because he has the last name of James.
Right,
and
so is he irrelevant then? It really doesn't matter. They could say all they want to. The pressure's there as soon as he was born, as soon as he started playing basketball.
But the media is saying that he's putting too much pressure on Bronny James to live up to the hype or whatever. Just like as a great, just like Michael Jordan's sons or whatever. But this is different because we're in where we have social media and stuff. Where Michael Jordan wasn't under the scrutiny and his son wasn't under the scrutiny of the social media climate and whatever.
Jermaine,
I'm just saying that
Jermaine, buddy, we are right up against the end of the show, but thank you for the call. I'll say this: LeBron is divisive to people. There are people who think LeBron's the greatest ever, and there are people who don't like LeBron at all. He's just always been divisive to people.
Well, I think when he came out with the statement that he wants to play and so he gets a chance to play with his son, I think he was putting the Lakers on notice because he's unhappy with some of the moves they made. Yeah. And I can get out of this thing and I'll move as quickly as I want to because I'm the face of the league. I think his son's pressure is all built within. He's LeBron James' son.
Yeah,
so the pressure is there. So that's never going to change. And for him to be great, nobody knows if he's going to be great. He could be just a good player. So we'll see. In the meantime, in between time, we will find out what's going on with Bronny and LeBron.
But we got to say, bye and peace.